welcome to Forbidden Planet TV. It is Friday, we are nearly at the weekend, and what better way to start celebrating early than with Juliette Cross to talk Firebird. Hi, Juliette.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. I'm so pleased you're here. We were just talking off camera about the nightmares of you getting to the UK.
It was a little bit of a struggle, but very happy to be here.
Yes.
Well rested, ready to go.
Good. That's what I like to see. And it has kind of cooled down if you'd been here kind of last
Yes.
weekend.
So I've been stalking the weather in
fair.
London, and it was in the 90 degrees for
35 or so.
35.
Yeah,
That's way hot. And then I saw that it was dipping down as soon as we arrived. So perfect timing. Thank you, London. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, we were really hanging on in there. Like, it was just like, and I know as well, obviously, there are parts of the States that are very, very warm, don't get me wrong, but I just think aircon is still such a novelty for us, and it's not everywhere. So, like the tube system, because a lot of the trains are really old, they don't have aircon.
Right.
So you get kind of.
So it was quite warm.
It was
down there.
Yeah. It was. You know, it's so hard to kind of concentrate on anything.
Right. Just surviving.
It's just like, am I
surviving the ride?
Now?
Where am I going?
So yes, we're so pleased that it's cooled down. Though I suppose all the heat is, it's apt for the book, right?
Oh, that's true. It's very thematic. Wonderful.
There you go. So where did the initial idea for Firebird come from?
Well, in this case, typically I think of the characters first when I'm developing a new story, but I actually am a huge fan of ancient Rome, and I love that show, that old HBO show, Rome. Have you seen it?
Yes.
It's fantastic.
And then they cancelled it.
I know, like 2 seasons. What were they thinking? I still get angry about it, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm also a Game of Thrones fan,
right.
And so I just one day on the patio was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if there were dragons in Rome? And actually my husband and I talked about it a little bit, and he's like, yeah, and then like Romulus and Remus could be from a she-dragon instead of a she-wolf. I'm like, I can use that. Wait, I'm gonna write that down. But this was probably 10 years ago that I thought of it, but I couldn't get the idea out of my head. So I wrote the prologue, and the prologue that's in Firebird is basically the exact same prologue I wrote years ago with, so a few changes. And so then the characters just stuck with me for a while, but I kept doing other projects. I started the Stay a Spell series and kind of was in that for several years. And then I had this opportunity with Bramble, and it's just fantastic. Just perfect timing,
The Bramble list as well. I have those.
Oh goodness, yes. Speaking of fire, they're on fire, right?
Oh my god, yes. Yeah. So much good stuff. And I particularly loved, obviously, you have the intro of the myth of Medusa, and you're kind of. It's interesting that you're obviously using a lot of the mythology, but you've almost got your own kind of spin on it.
Yes. So I think I love mythology, absolutely. And so it always plays a role in, my fantasy stories. And I always was frustrated with the Medusa story. Why should Medusa be punished for being, violated by Neptune? Well, she shouldn't be punished for that. It's not her fault, right? So I was like, hey, let me make it more feminine forward. And instead of being punished, they were granted powers, to protect themselves and protect the world, that kind of thing. And so that's where I kind of wanted to have this sort of like feminine empowerment, as part of one of the themes of the story, because it's a very dark world, obviously, male dominated society. This is ancient Rome, even though it's a fantasy, it's very similar to the real one in that regard. And so, so I really wanted that to be kind of upfront at the very beginning, that we see that this is not the same Rome exactly,
Yeah, and this is something that I'm loving, and that we're seeing a lot in kind of fantasy and mythology retellings over the last kind of probably 2-3 years.
Right.
It's kind of reclaiming the lost kind of female voice in a lot of these stories.
Yes.
Which is, it's just great to kind of you don't just have the hero, and you don't just have the kind of female character as like a means to an end, like a story, like a plot point, or like that they're actually front and forward as they should be.
They're very essential.
Exactly. Do you have kind of any favourite recommendations in the kind of mythology world that have kind of helped not necessarily like your research, but just things that you really enjoyed along the way?
Oh, nothing in particular. I just stick to Greek mythology in general. And of course, I use the Roman names of the, because the Romans stole that too, you know, along with everything else. But essentially stuck with Greek mythology and philosophy. I mean, I kind of interject a lot of philosophy as part of Julian's character. He's, you know, very leans into the Greeks, which were about intelligence and, you know, ethos and all those kinds of things, which is very anti-Roman. But I did that purposefully to show that he has more depth, I guess, than the average Roman patrician. And so I did definitely lean into Roman and Greek history and mythology, and trying to recreate this world. So
and the politics.
So yes, we have our emperor, who's very much inspired by Caligula, who was one of the worst, as we know. But I just dialed it up a notch. It's like they're dragons, so he'd be even worse than, you know, when the bestial side comes out. So, and I did want to play on that idea that, you know, there is this like sort of living monster inside them. Some can control it and some can't. And our Nicholas, our emperor, is twisted in that way that it's not just bestial, it's evil, you know. He leans into the evil side. So
because I'm always of the mind that give me a character to love or give me a character to hate.
I didn't I?
Yes. Oh my god. Especially now, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone out there, but the feast scene.
Oh yeah.
Just like,
look, I was so ready for so when I wrote that scene, because that again was inspired by things Caligula used to do. I just again took it up a little bit, but I was very ready for my editor. I was like, this is trad. They don't lean quite so, you know, to these risque scenes as indie do. And I thought for sure they're going to say, I don't know if we can do that. But she was like, no, as long as we see the character motivation, I'm seeing it. Okay, I understand. I'm like, okay, great. Woo. You know, let that fly.
it would have been a huge shame to.
Right? Because I think it really, I mean, it wasn't just gratuitous. The purpose was to show how depraved Nicholas is, you know, and why so desperately that Julian wants to change it, you know. So it did serve a purpose besides being like a train wreck you couldn't look away from, you know.
God, and it felt very cinematic as well.
Ooh,
like you could definitely see like the
Thank you.
Very good.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
enjoy.
So glad you enjoyed that scene.
Yes.
You know.
So coming back to the idea of the characters and you kind of having a focus on those characters, was there kind of any of the characters that particularly changed from your first kind of
my first draft or thinking of them? I don't know. I think honestly it's really more of a secondary character, Enid. In the original draft, she actually did not, well, this is a spoiler, so I may have to let it go a little bit. She wasn't supposed to last very long. Let's just you know, and she was going to be kind of an antagonistic character, to basically bring out sort of the guilt or shame of what Malina's doing, you know, sort of allying herself with Julian. But then to me it seemed too, I don't know, unnecessarily forced, you know, and I actually thought it would serve the story better by having her have sort of a, you know, a fatal end, you know. So and what comes right after that, you know, there's like this very emotionally intimate scene, you know, where Julian helps her kind of through that. And so so I would probably say from the beginning, my original plans, she changed the most from sort of an antagonistic to a sympathetic character. Everyone else I pretty much had in mind. Malina, I knew she was going to be a Spitfire, and you know, even having to be, you know, captured in Rome wasn't going to change that part of her personality. And Julian was going to be this stoic character who has to hide who he really is, you know, the whole time for a while. So
now the dragons and the various kind of, I suppose, almost like houses, almost that you have the colours of the dragons. Now, is this like D&D
Oh,
inspired?
My goodness, I can't believe you even said that. So, yes, it is.
Oh my god, okay.
The way the houses came to be is my son Jacob, who is a DM. He's a dungeon master and runs his own campaigns in D&D. It's like, hey, Mom, there's colored dragons, and I was like, well, let's talk about that, and so we brainstormed, but I wanted to give the house names Latin names, so I tried to choose colors and things that had, and then I used Latin, like amethystus and stuff like that. But yeah, totally D&D inspired. Like I said, my families, we're all Comic-Con nerds and fandom nerds, and yeah, in the best way.
Well, I mean, that is the best thing.
Right. Well, I'm so glad you agree.
And even I always like to say that we were geeks before it was cool.
Oh, right, exactly. Everybody's finally on board. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yes, yeah. But, it always makes me laugh as well. That sometimes you'll talk to people who are maybe non-fancy or something, like readers, for example. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't read fancy, but I watch Game of Thrones. Or I don't read fancy, I don't read horror, but I watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's just like,
okay, all right then.
You can always go back to the source material.
Exactly where it all began.
So now we would be remiss not to mention that the romance, that kind of the... Now, slow burn, again with the tongue in cheek.
I know, we're using a lot of the some little punny words. Got it.
It felt like it was really fun to write, because it was really fun to read, and kind of I suppose that slow realization of, it feels as if he was kind of always sure from that first meeting, but obviously she's lived a life in between, right? So how much fun was that to write, and is that kind of one of your favorite tropes, or what are your favorite romance?
I love, and this was in Enemies to Lovers, in the way that they're on polar opposite sides of, one's Rome and one's not Rome, anti-Rome. But yes, it was a challenge, but in the best kind of way, just because, okay, he is a general in the army, the Romans, killed her whole family, so obviously they're going to be opposites. And again, not to spoil too much, but he brings her to Rome to save her, right? And so we have that aspect, but again, and she doesn't know why, she doesn't understand, but it's kind of just like rolling with it, trying to survive and plan her own escape from Rome. But to me, what was really cool was that he was so sort of being pulled in two ways. Like, he knows for sure, again, that she's the one, but at the same time, there's no way their worlds can mix. And also, he is basically hiding his true intentions and his whole plan to overthrow his emperor. And how can he trust this young woman who obviously hates him? And so there's a lot in the beginning where we kind of know his true intentions, but it doesn't come through because he can't tell her, because that would expose himself, and then he would be killed instantly, and so so that was fun. I like secrets. I like writing about secrets. And so, so that always tends to be my favorite ones to write.
It was quite fun as well, because you didn't go for the kind of the only one bed thing straight away, because there was two beds. So,
right?
Which I quite enjoyed.
That's true. I did.
It's like,
I did.
Oh yeah, there's two beds.
I didn't use that trope.
So in regards to kind of, I suppose, let's just say the kind of darker fantasy, and maybe the more steamier fantasy, and maybe some of the more kind of lighter fantasy and romance that you've written.
Right.
How different is it, the writing process?
It's interesting. I've always been a mood reader, and as well as a mood writer. I love, fun, whimsical historical fiction. I love rom-coms, regular contemporary, and then I love the deep, dark romantasy, those kinds of things. So for me, it's just a matter of getting into the headspace. So for Stay a Spell, I'm assuming you're kind of thinking of that, which is very rom-com-y, and it's set in the modern world. But I love writing it because then I can use all of like modern day references, you know, that I cannot use in ancient Rome, obviously, you know, and other like, you know, completely fey worlds like the Wraith King, you know, those others. But yeah, I just honestly just switch my brain, like, oh, okay, now we're in New Orleans, which is one of my favorite places in the world, and you know, I know it really well. My husband was born there. I probably go, I don't know, 10 times a year or something. You know, it's very close to where we live. So it's kind of a home away from home. So for me, it's kind of just like stepping back into the real world, even though there's still vampires and grims and werewolves, you know, it just kind of adds for fun. And I really intentionally made the magic very light in that, because I want it to feel more contemporary. I want it to feel very character driven and character focused on the romance itself. So yeah, and it's kind of like a palate cleanser. You know, I'll go, I'm like, okay, let's go write and Stay a Spell world, and then I go deep and dark again. You know, so and it's fun for me. It just keeps my muse interested. You know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think as well, I mean, I think for a lot of people, myself included, that's how we kind of read as well.
Right.
That if you read something really heavy going, then you're just like,
I need to laugh where like there's like no high stakes.
I'm currently rereading The Stand because The End of the World as We Know It is out next month, and we're doing the UK event here, which is going to be very exciting. So I was just like, I need to reread that. I forgot how big it was. I must admit, because I read it when I read
that
like
one
18,
too.
19.
That one was terrifying.
But I am looking forward to kind of rediscovering it. So
that's fantastic. I love that.
So I'm definitely going to need something easygoing, I think, after that. So, but saying that, I was piling up my books upstairs for what I'm taking on leave, and I think I've got like the new Eric LaRocca in there. I've got the new Joe Hill, and I was just like, none of this is easy.
Like
it's gonna be fun.
Where are the rom-coms?
I'm gonna have to put a rom-com in. just a little like relief. Right. Also, as I just thinking about I suppose with more kind of say historical based, or you know, whether there's more research and there's more things that, you know, unless you kind of, I suppose, say, oh, this is my version of that world, there's more holes you could fall.
Well, and I definitely, you know, I definitely have the author's note warning all historians, please don't, you know, like this is not meant to be historically accurate. I know I'm switching times of ancient Rome, you know, because I mean, it's 200 BC is very different from, you know, a different time era and what was being built, and you know, as far as their plumbing and all these other things. But I just wanted the fantasy world to fit so I used a lot of creative license, obviously. But I would say that like the research for me was more about the finer details. You know, I had a really good background in just, you know, how the Romans lived in general. But when you're writing about day-to-day things, you know, you have to do a little bit more research. Like I wanted this one scene where Malina is with Stephanos, the young boy, and they were doing something very domestic. You know, I was like, oh, well, how do they grind grain, you know, at home? And so that's when I found like they used this quern stone that they would actually grind the grain, and usually they had a granary and somebody would do all that, but they actually did have their own at home. Some people did, and I was like, okay, well, that'll work, you know. And again, it's probably not the same era as when they had, you know, all of the indoor plumbing and, you know, all these other things, but it fit perfectly. So I would say like my research was really more about finding these details to bring it to life, to where you felt like, okay, I'm there, I can see and smell and what the Roman Forum is like, you know. It's not just people wandering through, but they're selling everything, you know, and the smells are pretty, from grotesque to you know, bath oils and fruit and fresh fruit and all these other things. So yeah, and that's fun. That was fun research too for me, you know. Yeah,
and it does also as well, it kind of brings a really interesting thing, and I think it's very easy to forget about kind of, especially the Roman Empire, that there's something that they were very advanced in certain things, but yet so kind of almost very bestial, very
yes,
yeah,
this is exactly why I thought it would be perfect for the book. Yes, yes. It's like they're so sophisticated in these certain ways, and yet they're conquering and burning their way across the world, you know, and enslaving people. Like, so there's this juxtaposition between this very sophisticated, intelligent society and then this bestial side, which is why I thought how perfect that would be if they actually were beasts, you know, and it would even make them more powerful and more dangerous, you know, and it just raises the stakes, I think, in general for anyone who's a human trying to live in that world, you know, and survive. So yeah, that's been fun too.
So I think we mentioned it off camera, but the stunning artwork for your covers, obviously the second cover for everyone at home, I just saw it, but it is out there, so you can see it
Blood
too.
Singer, you can check it out.
Is stunning, but yeah, the cover design, like,
right?
I bet you're really pleased with it.
I am extremely pleased. So Monique Patterson was the one who like originally had acquired the book from me, and she had said, okay, I have an idea of using Carlos Quevedo, and I almost fainted when she sent that to me because I've been an admirer for his work for a long time. You know, I've seen it online. He's just an extremely talented artist. And I said, yes, please, let's do that. She said, and I was thinking maybe Malina on the cover, and she's got the Arius, the coin that's very important in the story, and maybe her hair's like blowing in the wind and then turning into fire. And I'm like, yes, yes, to all these things. And so pretty much everything she had suggested, I just suggested, oh, I don't know if they can see that. I don't know if they can see that.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see if I can turn up
for everyone at home, because
brightness.
the second book's cover, they're just going to look stunning on your shelves. For starters.
I don't know if they can see that.
But
yes.
We're going to try
in miniature.
Josh, if you're able to
Josh, help us out with that.
Make that pop. Make that big.
So yeah, and my only addition to the cover was we need red, because he's a red dragon, and I wanted that sort of emphasis on. And then we have the dragon iconography jewelry all over her, which is stunning. I mean, just you know, so, and she's in her red dress for Julian's color. So and so now we know why we have blue on the next cover. So
so coming to the end of our interview, so two more questions. So is book 2 finished? Is it?
Oh yeah.
And book 3?
Book 3, I have the synopsis and a little bit of chapter 1 done. So, and there'll be a sneak peek in the back of Blood Singer for that one as well. So, yeah. So I know how it's all going to end. Right. I'm not going to tell you, but yes.
So you're more of a planner. This is.
100%. I feel like a fantasy writer has to be a plotter. You know, I mean, and I have to know what happens at the very end to be able to have foreshadowing things that lead up to that point for the conflicts to make sense for me personally. So yeah, I know the last climactic scene and I can't wait to write it. But I'm also one of those, like, I don't write scenes out of order. Like, I have to, I'm very linear. I have to write the whole book because I have to be in it at the same time the characters are in it. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a very exciting finish. That's all I can say. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm so excited.
Oh my god, yes, yeah. I think I like hearing when authors are planners in particular, because I'm organised when I have to be, but generally I'm
same.
So
same.
So it's quite nice to just think, they know exactly where they're taking me.
That's probably the only part of my life that is organised. Is my books.
And for the last question, so what are you currently reading, watching, and if you game, what are you playing?
Okay, I am reading The Deathless One by Emma Hamm, which is a friend of mine, and she's coming out with this new series, and she's just a fantastic writer. So it's very her writing is very, like, beautiful and eerie. That's how I can describe it, you know?
Okay.
So that's a good one. So what am I reading? What am I writing? I just started The Beast Lord, which is book 2 in the Wraith King series. That's my indie series.
Yes.
So back into the dark fae world, and I'm really excited to be back there as well. And I don't play games. I'm so sorry.
No.
Yeah. And what am I watching? Well, gosh, right now nothing. But I was just watching Lord of the Rings rewatch. We do that all the time.
Yes.
That's kind of like, but that's kind of a staple in our house. Like we have to do a rewatch.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. So one of my favorites.
Severance.
Severance. Yeah, we were watching a little bit of that.
Yeah,
A little bit. Watch the entire thing.
Yeah.
I definitely need to get into Severance. I've got obviously some time off coming up, so
yeah.
I'm not. Well, obviously, like back in our youth when we had to wait like a week for a new episode, you don't have to just like do a whole series in like a couple of days, which is.
Oh, except for we were watching The Bear as well. That's another one we like.
Yes, yeah. Oh my god. So I really enjoy The Bear, but I did like one of my first jobs was in the kitchen. Like it was like a pot wash in like a really busy kitchen.
Right.
So sometimes you're just like
a little PTSD going on. Like no, I can't handle it.
You think you like slept through your alarm. You're just like I'm meant to be chopping carrots.
I love it.
It's just like, oh yeah, they've done such a good job. So many kind of actors and actresses just popping up in these little kind of side roles
and all their backstory is so cool.
Yes.
You know, they've done a good job in the writing for sure.
Oh yeah,
so
really good. But yeah, thank you, Juliette, so much for joining us today. And for anyone at home, we're going to have signed copies available to pre-order and to grab very, very soon. And they'll be stocking to all 10 of our stores. So please grab a copy.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.